Morning. We are open at church from this morning, the 7th of March, at 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock and 11:15. 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock and 11:15. This morning I'm going to talk around a story that is very famous, the story of the woman who is accused of adultery and is brought before Jesus. It's always been one of my favourite stories from the Gospels. Perhaps because it's a story which overcomes injustice and prejudice through humanity and wisdom. And you'll find the story in John 8, 1 to 11. As I reread this passage again, I was taken back over 40 years to Bethlehem, the town which became my home for a never-forgotten summer. A visit to the Holy Land which changed the way I thought, the way I did things, and that altered my personal and professional life forever. But that's another story. This was a time when I really experienced, faced and lived with prejudice and witnessed injustice in many different guises for perhaps the first time. I'd gone to Israel with a Quaker organisation to paint a small building that had once been a Cheshire home, but was known now, as the sign outside it proclaimed, as the Arab Home for Physically Handicapped Girls and Women. Steve, another volunteer, and I were to paint a couple of rooms during our summer stay. In the event, we painted the whole place, except for the kitchen. This white, flat-roofed building became our homes for that hot summer. Our bedroom was the schoolroom. We got to know the girls and women, ranging from 3 upwards, who had remained living in the house. Others had gone home for the summer vacation. There was the housekeeper, cook, Shahar, whom we communicated with through hand signals, smiles, and a lot of laughter. The teacher, I can't remember her name, but I do have a photograph of her standing on the steps of the building with some of the children. Edmund, the doctor who set up the home, and whom I regard as one of the most remarkable people I have ever met, and also some of the girls and the women and the day patients who attended Edmund's morning clinics. Steve and I had caused a great deal of consternation and debate in Bethlehem, as we were to be 2 young men living in the same house as women and girls, unheard of. But it was agreed to by committee. And so I came for a short while to make this house, in this world-famous hillside town lying in occupied territory, my home. Steve and I became fond of the girls and women, and one day we asked them if they would like to come out with us to a cafe we'd found in Bethlehem. So one afternoon, with 2 or 3 women linked between us, a girl on each arm, a child on my shoulders and one on Steve's back, we headed very slowly up the hill street to the cafe. There was a lot of laughing and a lot of stopping, but we made it. I remember that we all had a drink, after which we had an ice cream. We all enjoyed the afternoon. Laughter and smiles transcend language barriers like nothing else. A week or so later, we repeated the journey. However, this was to be a very different experience. When we reached the cafe, we were refused entry. We were not even allowed to sit outside. I think it was a combination of us being with women, and not only that, but that these were disabled women and girls. Steve and I bought ice creams and took them out to our friends, and we ate them as they melted in the afternoon heat, leaning on a wall, but they didn't taste as they should have. There were to be other incidents of prejudice in different ways and situations that I have never forgotten and never will, but those too are other stories. When I reread John's Gospel story, I could see Jesus looking up into the face of this condemned woman, perhaps as he wiped the dust from his fingers, knowing that they were now alone, for the blood-baying crowd, in their shame, had walked away. And in the sudden silence of calm, Perhaps she managed to keep her gaze on his face, knowing that she stood in the presence of someone special, but not realizing that she was looking into the eyes of God. Eyes that did not condemn, words that did not condemn. All Jesus told her to do was to go and change her life. This woman had learned what it was like to stand alone. She had felt the hurt and fear of knowing that everyone was against her. Everyone, that is, except for this one man. Prejudice is a terrible thing. In Israel, all those years ago, I witnessed it firsthand, in different places, in different people. For me, Christianity is so powerful because at its heart, at its very heartbeat, is compassion and forgiveness. And most of all, the love for all people that Jesus Christ embodies in what he says and in all that he does. It was through listening and loving that Jesus brought new life and new meaning to so many lives. And as this unnamed woman in this gospel story walks away from Jesus, you sense that she will never be the same again, all because of one man's compassion, forgiveness, and love. New life and meaning come through the ability to listen and to love one another. And wherever and whenever this happens, prejudice and injustice are overcome, just as Jesus overcame it all those years ago through his humanity and his wisdom.